few WWE superstars are going to be lifers. In fact, the average WWE career for those lucky enough to become an on-screen talent is something around 2 years long. Inevitably and unfortunately, at some point you're going to be let go, and as a recent round of cuts have demonstrated, it doesn't matter if you've been with a company for decades, have lucrative multi-year contracts, or if you're a Hall of Famer who once won an Olympic gold medal with a broken freaking neck. This is business, pal, and while being let go from what for most WWE talent is a dream job can be tough to take, it doesn't mean it has to be the end. Yes, some WWE performers are P45'd and then drift into obscurity, cropping up at low-level indies or on the convention circuit to flog signed pictures and foam fingers before biting the bullet and getting a quote-unquote real job. But for others, being released has actually proved to be a blessing in disguise, a kick up the backside that enables them to go off and grow as both a person and a performer before often finding their way back to the big time. For those talents that have been mercilessly dropped lately, remember that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and this doesn't have to be the end of the line. It could be the beginning of a whole new, incredible journey. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and these are 10 WWE releases that were a blessing in disguise. Join us! Number 10, Luke Gallows. 2020 wasn't the first time that Gallows was let go by WWE. On November 19th, 2010, the former Festus and Fake Kane, who had most recently acted as CM Punk's muscle in the Straight Edge Society, was released alongside Shad Gaspard, Lance Archer, Jillian Hall, and others. Gallows had been in WWE's system for over 5 years at that point, and as a big, tall, athletic, and versatile big man who was well liked backstage, many assumed that he would have a gig for a long time to come. After being given his marching orders, Gallows took to the independent scene with gusto, working all over the world for promotions good, bad, and ugly. His exploits earned him a contract with TNA and a spot in the Aces and Eights stable, but that would only be the start of his career resurgence. It was in New Japan Pro Wrestling that Gallows truly flourished, joining the continent's hottest promotion full-time in 2013. As a member of the immensely popular Bullet Club, Doc Gallows was a featured part of the show and captured the IWGP Tag Team titles 3 times with running buddy Carl Anderson. His impressive performances caught the eye of WWE, who re-signed him along with Anderson in 2016. Still in his mid-30s, I don't think we've seen the last of Gallows yet. Number 9, Colt Cabana. One of wrestling's most dependable independents, Colt Cabana made his name by busting his hump in the so-called minor leagues for many years before WWE came calling in 2007 and signed the Chicago native to a developmental deal. Cabana, who had plied his trade in countless promotions around the world before making it to Ohio Valley and then Florida Championship Wrestling, tirelessly toiled and waited for his call-up, which came in the summer of 2008. Now going by Scotty Goldman, he debuted at the August 15th, 2008 SmackDown, losing to Brian Kendrick in about 2 minutes. It didn't get much better from there. A couple of quick Battle Royal appearances and squash match losses to the Great Khali, Vladimir Kozlov, and Umaga were all he had to brag about before being released on February the 20th, 2009. Wasting no time moping around, he was back working a PWG show the very next day, and would rebuild his reputation on the indie and international scene over the next many years. Cabana also began the influential Art of Wrestling podcast, giving a voice to many of his fellow journeymen, and leading to broken friendships and a lawsuit or two. His dream WWE gig may not have amounted to much, but the experience motivated him to find success elsewhere. He's still going strong today as a valued member of the AEW roster. Number 8, Mark Jindrak. Possessing youth, good looks, a chiseled physique, and uncanny athleticism, Mark Jindrak was a hot prospect when his contract was acquired by WWE in the 2001 sale of WCW. He was green, sure, but time was on his side, and working night after night for the biggest wrestling organization in the world against more experienced opponents, he was bound to get better sooner rather than later. WWE tried several things with Jindrak, but none of them seemed to work. He tagged with WCW teammate Sean O'Haire for a while, was paired with Garrison Cade, became a modern-day Lex Luger as the reflection of perfection, and was aligned with Kurt Angle in a stable featuring another muscle prospect, Luther Reigns. Regrettably, none of this really worked, and his inability to get over, combined with a backstage immaturity, caused WWE to release him in 2005. Since leaving, he's gone on to become one of the biggest stars in Mexican wrestling, main eventing in CMLL, and has been a regular on some popular Mexican TV shows. Bland and arguably forgettable in America, Jindrak has had a superb second career south of the border. Number 7, A-Train. For a while there, A-Train was a force to be reckoned with on SmackDown. Putting his former life as Prince Albert behind him, in late 2002 he developed a mean streak and got pally with Paul Heyman and The Big Show, which led him to big matches against the likes of The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar. Things were going great until he was traded to Raw in the 2004 draft, where he did nothing but injure his rotator cuff and was promptly released along with fellow Attitude Era luminaries Test and Billy Gunn. One place the real-life Matt Bloom knew he could prosper was in Japan, where big, burly bastards were always in high demand. Competing first in All Japan and then New Japan, the newly christened Giant Bernard spent the next 7 years winning tournaments, titles, and the hearts of fans in the land of the rising sun. The hairy-backed behemoth had found his niche and his reputation as a worker grew. So much so that, you guessed it, WWE came calling again. Bloom re-signed and debuted as Lord Tensai in April 2012, immediately entering into a feud with top star John Cena. His main event run didn't last, but he soon settled into a well-received tag team with Brodus Clay, before retiring and becoming a head coach at the WWE Performance Center, where he probably teaches the art of how to be a great opening house show act. Number 6. Gail Kim. Released alongside A-Train in November 2004 was Gail Kim, who WWE clearly had no idea what to do with from the start. Although, to be fair, she did have a great start, the perfect start even, as she won the WWE Women's Championship in her debut match. However, she lost it a month later and spent the rest of her WWE tenure either injured or floundering in what was then an underdeveloped women's division. Kim, a talented wrestler with a unique style and look, was let go because WWE were going in another direction. She was caught off guard by the release but didn't sit around crying about it and was soon wrestling on the independents and on international tours before getting signed by TNA in September 2005. It was in TNA, which at this point had a growing reputation and a killer roster at their disposal, that Kim really grew as a performer. As the centerpiece of the Knockouts division, Gail had an amazing series of matches with Awesome Kong, which was some of the best from any company or any gender. A second spell with WWE between 2008 and 2011 didn't do much for fans or for Kim, who left on bad terms after clashing with management and growing frustrated creatively. She found herself back in TNA, where she enjoyed yet more success, becoming a multi-time champion as well as the first female inductee into their Hall of Fame. Number 5. Hideo Itami. WWE doesn't have the best track record when it comes to creating Japanese superstars. For them, there always seems to be a ceiling, whether you're a Tajiri, Taka Michinoku, Ultimo Dragon, Shinsuke Nakamura, or Hideo Itami. Itami signed with WWE amid much fanfare after a stellar career in the Orient. As Kenta, Itami forged a reputation as a feared competitor who punished foes with a bruising, no-nonsense style. After completing a tryout with WWE in 2014, Itami was offered a contract, which he signed in the ring at a WWE live event in Japan with Hulk Hogan by his side. His runs in NXT and on 205 Live, though they produced a few highlights, were largely disappointing. In 5 years, he hadn't managed to replicate the magic from earlier in his career and asked for and was granted his WWE release. And that was clearly the best thing for him, because since then he's back to tearing it up as a top heel in New Japan, having the time of his life as a villain while regaining his world-class form between the ropes. Injuries aside, what exactly went wrong during his WWE run is still a bit of a mystery, but it's no secret that their loss was everyone else's gain. Number 4. Harry Smith. The son of the late great British Bulldog, Harry Smith is another who had all the tools to go far, but never quite managed to put it together while working for WWE. His very early WWE days back in 2007 to 2008 were completely unmemorable, and Smith primarily wrestled on Heat before requesting to go back to developmental in order to work on his in-ring and character work. When he was called back up and teamed with Natalya and Tyson Kidd as the Hart Dynasty, things got a lot better and the group had a good run for a while, winning the tag team titles. However, the run didn't last, and when the team split up, Smith found himself lost in the shuffle, milling about with the likes of Yoshitatsu and Darren Young on Superstars. After months of doing sweet FA, Smith was released in August 2011 and quickly admitted after that that he had lost his passion for the business. Thankfully, he has certainly rediscovered it in the intervening years, building his reputation on the independent scene and in Japan. Considering that he's still young and healthy and that his father is finally due to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, there's every chance that Smith could find himself back in a WWE ring yet. Not that he needs to. Number 3. Cody Rhodes. From prancing around in face paint to riding high as a main eventer and EVP for the burgeoning AEW, it has been quite a few years for the son of a plumber. Cody Rhodes had a long and varied WWE run, with fans experiencing many incarnations of his character since his 2007 debut. He was a dependable performer that you could see growing in confidence and stature as the years went by, and many had him pegged as a future main eventer. Whatever he was doing was usually pretty entertaining, and his hard work was rewarded with multiple tag team and IC title reigns. But Cody wanted more, and sensing that his career as the Bizarre Stardust, a gimmick he outright resented, was going nowhere fast, he lobbied for his release and it was granted in May 2016. As soon as he left, Cody got to work getting booked and cleverly compiled and shared a list of people on the indie scene that he wanted to wrestle now that he was a free agent. Promoters dutifully complied, and Cody began clawing back the reputation he was losing by the end of his WWE run. Runs in Ring of Honor, TNA, New Japan, PWG, and everywhere else led him to his own executive position today, where he has increased creative control and is the master of his own destiny. Number 2, Drew McIntyre. At WrestleMania 36, Drew McIntyre beat Brock Lesnar in the main event to win the WWE title. A spot only given to the chosen few, the scenario would have been unthinkable not too many years prior. The chosen one, as he was infamously labeled by Vince McMahon himself during an in-ring promo, McIntyre's first bite at the WWE cherry was not so sweet. He enjoyed some success, sure, winning the tag team and Intercontinental Gold, but overall his run had not measured up to expectation. When he was released in June of 2014, McIntyre was spinning his wheels as a member of the dorky but lovable 3MB. Removing the jobber perception, McIntyre, now competing once more as Drew Galloway, embarked on an independent excursion that saw his in-ring work, physique, and overall game improve exponentially. A fire had been ignited in the Big Scot, who took bookings here, there, and everywhere, earning many titles and plaudits for his work in ICW, PWG, TNA, and beyond. WWE were watching, and 3 years after he had been let go, he was welcomed back into the fold. Given a renewed push and finally really connecting with the audience, McIntyre took full advantage of the opportunity presented and looked like a man possessed on the way to downing the beast incarnate. Still in his mid-30s, the scary thing is that Drew will only get better. Number 1, Eddie Guerrero. The lovable Latino heat's first go-around in WWE had its shares of ups and downs. He was over and working night after night with some of his best friends in the business, but his addictions prevented him from fulfilling his obvious potential. After turning up to a television taping in no condition to perform, Guerrero was ordered to attend drug rehab or lose his job. After completing the program, Eddie began training for his comeback, but still hadn't quite overcome his demons. An arrest for driving under the influence was the final straw, and realizing he needed to hit rock bottom before he could clean himself up, WWE cut him loose. Eddie, who was also going through a divorce at the time, though he and Vicky later reconciled, took to the indies in a bid to rebuild his name and rediscovered the passion that had been lacking in recent months. While putting on nightly clinics in front of tiny audiences, Guerrero managed to stay clean and get in the best shape of his life, earning him a tour with former employer New Japan. WWE had been monitoring Guerrero's progress and, convinced he had turned a corner in his life, reached out to offer him his spot back. And the rest, as they say, is history.